Welcome to my basement, everybody. We have a wonderful guest on the show today, a longtime friend of Electric Playground. We did ask for this. He is the voice of Adam Jensen. Soon you'll be listening to him as the voice of Prometheus in Immortals, Fenyx Rising. He's been in fantastic television shows like The Expanse, and his list of credits is ridiculous. He's been in tons of things, but more than all of that, he's just an awesome dude. Elias Toufexis, welcome to my basement, buddy. How you doing?
Hey, buddy. How have you been, man? I missed you.
I missed you too. I've been doing okay. You know, I've thankfully been able to play a ton of stuff and be entertained, even though I've stayed within a 6-foot radius of this vicinity for the most part.
Thank God for games and previously recorded television, because yeah, it's kind of it's a crazy time. Can you breathe up there?
I just checked while we were waiting to connect here, and we have officially the worst air on Earth right now, thanks to the terrible wildfires, and my heart goes out to all the people. Yeah, worst air on the planet in Vancouver, BC, which is not something that you would associate with our city. It's a super green city, but it really kind of underlines how important it is for humanity to take climate change seriously and to make some big changes, man.
It's insane when you think about it. You're what's Vancouver to LA? 2,000 miles? Yeah. So 2,000 miles away, we're smelling the same, maybe not the same smoke, but we're both smelling and breathing in this giant smoke. It's crazy.
And if we don't play our cards right, this is not the worst it's going to get, which is just awful and sad. But listen, it's been a challenging year for every person on this planet. And it's, I hear that in every conversation I have in this podcast, but we all know this. How are you doing personally, and how is your family doing, and how's the work going for you right now?
It's good because it's, my family's fine, thank goodness. We're a little kind of, we get on each other's nerves because everybody's working from home. Yeah. So, I'll be doing a game or an animated series or some VO project in a booth that I have that's attached right next to where they play video games or play with their toys. So they always have to be quiet for 4 to 8 hours in a day. But they also have school that we have to help them with. So it's a tricky time, but times are tough, like you said, for everybody. Yeah. But as long as everybody's safe and happy, and as long as, I could keep bringing in money and my wife too, then, we have not much to complain about, even if our kids whine a lot, but that's everybody's kids.
You've got Immortals, Fenyx Rising coming up very soon. And I imagine a lot of production was taking place during all of this. Tell me a little bit about the character and how you handled getting your work into this game.
Yeah, Immortals is always going to be, to me, that's going to be the big game that I worked on during the pandemic, because it hit. We had done some performance capture for it back in October of last year, and back when it was still called Gods and Monsters. And then, I thought I was done pretty much. I knew I would have some pickup voices or stuff like that. But then in March, they called me and they said, we want you to come back. We changed the game a bit, and we want you to do your characters much bigger, and we want you to come back and do some more performance capture. And right when I was booking my flight in the hotel and everything, the pandemic hit. So they said, well, you can come back, but you got to quarantine for 14 days. So that's 14 days away from my family on top of the work days, which I wasn't going to do. Yeah. And then I said, well, why don't you get somebody else to mocap it, to motion capture it? Just real quick, the difference between motion capture and performance capture is, it is what it is. Motion capture only captures your movements. Performance capture captures your voice, your face, your reactions, everything at the same time. So we had done performance capture for it, but they wanted me to do more, but I couldn't come up there. So I said, why don't you get an actor who's the same size and shape as me, have him do the motions, and then I'll just add the voices. And they said, okay, fine. I don't like doing that. I'd much prefer to do the whole thing. But, times are what they are. But then that got shut down too. Right. And then I didn't hear from them for a couple of meetings. They said, well, maybe I honestly thought I had lost the job. Because I thought they would just be like, well, we can't do anything from the guy in LA. So we're just going to hire somebody. Now we'll redo it. And then they called me, and to their credit, I have a sound booth here, and I have all the proper equipment, like all set up and stuff. So I was very fortunate. And they sent me because they wanted all the actors to be on the same mic, so they sent me this $6,000 mic that I got to keep for a month, then they took it back. Damn it. But
you have to put mics into your contracts from now on.
Yeah, it's funny, because I'm doing it now with another game, and they sent me another beautiful mic. You know who they are, actually.
Yeah.
And I was like, can I just keep this and maybe like take some money off my pay? But so to their credit, Ubisoft sent me this thing, and much like every other actor, much like everybody else, all my work has stopped. I was going to do this animated film. I had an animated series. I had 2 games, including Immortals, and everything stopped.
Brutal.
And we started like worrying a little bit, like, okay, well, if I don't work for 6 months, this is the reason actors have to make. A lot of people go, how much do you make in a day? Well, if I didn't make that in a day, that has to stretch, right? So because it's contract for contract. So suddenly now I'm not going to be working for 4 months. You start getting kind of really worried. But Ubisoft saved me, literally saved, a lot of problems for me, because they sent me that mic and they said, we're going to do it anyway. We're going to do it from your home booth, and we'll work through the tech issues. And we had a lot of tech issues at first, but then we worked it through. And I just, saw the demo and I'm like, oh, it sounds great. It sounds really good. We did it.
Well, it precipitated my reaching out to you, actually, because I got to get some hands-on time with it. And Ubi's been doing these really cool things where we remote log into a server and play their games. I got a chance to do that with Watch Dogs Legion and with Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And then last week it was Immortals Fenyx Rising. And it was really fun. But what struck me is I heard your voice right away, and I'm like, oh my God, it's Elias. And there is a sense of humor with the game. Like, it's got a really great, it's irreverent. There's an irreverence about it, and it's breaking is it the fourth wall? The fourth wall. And it makes fun of the fact that it used to be called Gods and Monsters, and it's like skip all of this stuff if you just press the button. Was it fun to? Was it fun to, play with a lot of that stuff? And was it all on the page, or were you guys able to improvise and come up with your own dialogue that way?
It was mostly on the page. The writers were both, the writer Jeffrey especially was really cool if I wanted to change something that I thought would be funnier or flow better. But most, like 99% of it, he had written already. He and the other writers had written already. But here's the thing. For a game like that, or for characters like that with Zeus and Prometheus, where you're bouncing back and forth a lot, in the pandemic, we couldn't do it. We couldn't bounce back and forth.
Right.
And so we had to find a way, and this was very, very tricky, we had to find a way to make sure that we still were able to somehow have chemistry, even though we never met. He was I think he was in Toronto, and I'm down here in LA. And even if we weren't, we would still be doing it from our own places.
Totally.
Even if we were in the same city. So what we did was, it was a really, really smart way of working, is we would decide at the scene who was the kind of the impetus of the scene and who was reacting off of that person. And we would record whoever kind of started the scene first and then play it back, and then you would bounce off of that.
Oh, that's great. Right.
Yeah, so that's how we did it. So I would hear, most of the time it was me being the straight guy, so I would hear Zeus all the time with his funny lines, and I would kind of bounce off of his funny lines. Most of the time I would have to hear him, and then I was able to bounce off of, as if he was there.
And you were zooming in with one of the techs at Ubisoft, and they were playing that stuff? Like, how were you?
It wasn't really Zoom. I guess I can talk about it. It's not really, I'm trying to think if it's like some sort of secret, but not really. Basically, when you're doing, like I did a commercial last week, right?
Yeah.
And they use this thing called Source Connect. And basically all you gotta do is talk into it, and you don't have to record or edit or do anything as an actor. It all pipes top quality to them.
Okay.
And then they deal with it. Ubisoft made their own version of that. It was really interesting. They were like, we created our own kind of Source Connect thing. And so I would hook up with them, and they could play me whatever they wanted, and I could hear it. And it was all real time. Really, really cool stuff. The only thing I had to do was up my internet. My internet was relatively normal, and then they're like, you need to up your speed a bit. So I had to pay like an extra $50 a month. But it's worth it, because it was pretty flawless. I mean, it's like we had tech issues at first, but once we solved them and we knew when something went wrong, it's this. And then one of us would fix whatever the issue was, whether I had to reset my internet or something like that.
You've got the voice down. Are you moving into the direction of doing performance work remotely too? Is that going to be a part of your future, do you think?
I had a friend, Elle, who actually got sent an HMC, which is the camera that mounts on your head, has a little camera here. And she got sent exactly where to put the dots on her face.
Crazy.
And plug it into her computer so she can do an actual full-on performance capture. Yeah.
Incredible. That's so cool. Did you have a sense of the visual kind of spec of your character in Immortals? Or was that all just rough sketches and things like that? Did you know what kind of a performance you were supposed to give based on visuals?
They guided me through it really well. They did send me one video, so I got to see kind of the cartoony kind of version of it. It was the video that I performance captured back in October.
Okay.
So I got to see how it was going to look. And when I was there, the game changed a lot since I was there back in October. But they always had that kind of cartoony, strikingly beautiful visual kind of aesthetic. So yeah, and the writing kind of guided me through it. And I mean, when you have a character that says, press the skip button, you kind of know where they're going.
Was there always a sense of humor with the game, or was it did that change as the title changed?
It definitely grew. Initially, back in October, it wasn't as funny.
Okay.
But it grew into this really funny. I don't know. I'm just the actor, so I don't know what changes they made to their staff, to their creative staff.
Yeah.
I literally am just like, where do you want me to show up? But whatever they did, they made it funnier as we went along. And the scripts were very funny on that second and third pass that I did during the pandemic, for sure.
You're a Canadian actor who did the journey that a lot of Canadian actors want to do. They want to move to LA. They want to go where the work is. And I know that is also fraught with a lot of challenges, at multiple levels. But the idea of entertaining that reality in a world in a time like this just must be insane. And I'm wondering how it feels for you now with this retrospective kind of opportunity that you have to kind of think of this move and think of your career and how it feels living in LA through all of this.
It's a very, very weird, like, for lack of a better word, because when we moved down here, I moved down here only about a little over 2 years ago. Yeah. And that first year, as I knew, it would be building relationships, as you do when you move to any new city. Yes. Even though I have a massive resume, I still have to get to know the casting directors. I still have to get in both film and TV and in all the voiceover stuff. I had to get to know, I'd go to parties that I never wanted to go to, but I had to meet these people. And, you got to promote yourself and do all that. So I spent the first year kind of doing that. And then right when I started getting in the rooms, mostly for TV, everything gets cut out from under you.
Yeah.
And thank God for voiceover work, because I was still able to curate those relationships, except now it was all like this.
Right.
So I would still be, the good thing about being a voice actor is, you put 50 auditions to 100 auditions on tape or on MP3, like a month. You just constantly throwing stuff. There's 10,000 of us, so the work is like spread out a lot. But you just keep going until you book something, and then when you book something, you build a relationship with those people, much like I have with Ubisoft, which is I keep working with Ubisoft because I know all of the people and they know what I can do.
Yes.
So they don't have to worry if I'm going to nail it or not. They know I'm going to be able to do it. So they'll like Prometheus was a straight offer. They knew I could do a Greek accent. They knew I could be funny, and they knew that I was going to show up on time. So they just gave me the role. And that's that's starting to happen to me more and more, but thank God for voice work. Because living here is it's expensive, much like Vancouver, but it's expensive. It's a weird time to be in this country, even leaving the pandemic aside, politically, socially.
Yeah.
It's a weird time to be in this country. California is kind of its own thing, to be honest. But there are still pockets of that kind of, social unrest here.
It's just it's ridiculous divisiveness, and it's not just in America; it's all over the world. It's. I mean, we just had a mask rally in Vancouver. What?
Yeah.
It's when the air quality is the worst in the world. Let's go out and talk about not wearing masks today. Okay, guys.
Yeah. But you know what's interesting about living in LA is you have to remember, this is for any actor in Canada who wants to come down to LA, or any actor in any other state aside from New York, because New York has its own thing, who wants to come to LA. You have to get it in your mind, and it took me a year to realize this, that nobody cares. I'm not saying nobody cares about you, but nobody cares about your career or how difficult your struggle has been, or you used to get into every room in Canada and now you're struggling to get into rooms. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
So once you make that decision, once you make that realization, you go, okay, I'm just going to work as much as I can, as hard as I can, and stop caring that, stop worrying so much about like this casting director and this casting director and this, getting in this room, getting my headshot writing.
Right.
Just start going, I'm just going to work. I'm just going to do my best to work as much as possible. Go to classes, go to, like I said, I'm in a very different position because I came down with a very big resume and a lot of stuff for VO. So I kind of got thrown into the VO world pretty quick. And all these people are so welcoming, to name drop a few, a friend of ours, a mutual friend of ours, like Jennifer Hale, who she literally, like I came down here and she took me and brought me to people. And she said, you have to meet this guy. And this is what he's done. And this is how good he is. And that would get me, like a small one-day role playing a soldier. But then I got that role playing a soldier. And then a month later, it's like, do you want to play the lead in this game? And that, because I had been brought in by Jen or Cissy Jones or like all these, Courtney Taylor,
she's so wonderful. She's just an amazing human being. Yeah, I think that's fantastic.
And that really helped me get a leg up down here. Really
I know too, though, that world, the voice artist kind of world, or the performance artist in the game space and the animation space, is not enormous. It's a lot of the same types of people, same caliber of people working again and again and again. And for you to come from, Montreal or Toronto or different cities that you have worked in with the experience that you have is also a great benefit to these casting directors down there, because you're a new voice relative to a lot of who they've been hiring. So I'm sure that it's a win-win in that regard for you, which is great.
But it is a hard circle to crack. It's a very hard circle to crack. And even within the circles, there are circles. Like there's like a promo circle, all the Tonight on ABC, those guys make a ton of money. Because they work every day.
Yes.
I can get to book a promo. I just can't crack that circle. But the animation circle I cracked, and the video game circle I cracked. But
we did a documentary with Discovery for the military channel several years back, and Discovery under its umbrella just books these narrators and these voice guys like voice people like crazy, and their Rolodex is huge. And they recommended a guy who was terrific. I think his name is Jeff Klinger, and he it was about the Big Red One game, but also the real soldiers. And it was a fascinating, fantastic project. It was an honor to work on it, and he did an incredible job. But he is he's in that circle. So he works on that stuff all the time.
And that's what happened all the time. So it's hard to crack that circle. And then you have the bigger circles of the on-camera acting. The question I get the most from every actor is performance capture, because I've done so much of it.
Sure.
And they're like, how do you crack that? That's where does your agent look for it? Do you need an on-camera agent for that? Do you need a voiceover agent for that? How do you get into that? And that's a whole other thing. So there's a lot of little kind of circles to crack. But
There's an awesome performance capture space in Vancouver that we've shot at, and I've hosted some events at, called Beyond Capture. It's really kind of coming into its own. There's projects coming in there all the time. And I'm wondering, I know House of Moves was huge in LA for a long time. Are there more studios, more performance capture studios kind of popping up, and more businesses kind of facilitating this kind of work out of Los Angeles? I imagine there must be.
Yeah, there is, but the thing about it is that it's having access to it is tricky, right, as an actor, because you need to have an agent who knows, first of all, where to look, or who gets this information that they're looking for an actor for performance capture. If you have an on-camera agent only, if you're not a voiceover actor, you might occasionally get some on-camera casting directors. I know there's like 2 or 3 down here who cast, a performance capture game. But 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a voiceover director who's casting it. And if you're not a voiceover actor, you're not going to get the access to those auditions. But sometimes if you're only a voiceover actor, you may not get other access to other auditions that are performance capture. Like I did 2 years on The Expanse. I played a 9-foot-tall alien, right, that I mocapped and performance captured. I don't even know how I would have booked that, outside of the fact that they knew me already because I was on the show as an actor, and then they offered me that role.
Right, and they knew you had experience with that.
Yeah, they knew I had experience with. I had done so much performance capture in games, but so I'm on a TV show for 2 years. But then when I step back and I go, well, how would I book this if they didn't know me from the show itself, from playing an actual character on the show?
Right.
I mean, there's no way I would have known. They would have figured out a way to hire somebody. It wouldn't have been me. You know what I mean? It wouldn't have been. So it's really tricky being an actor and trying to, get your hands into everything and make sure that you're not missing any opportunities. That's the one thing about LA. There's a lot of opportunity here.
Yeah, I know.
There's a lot of actors.
Yes, I know that too. But do you think that, I think clearly it's working for you. This leg up that you have as someone that comes from the technological, connective tissue of being able to work in video games and has strapped on the mocap suits and the performance capture, outfit. So much of that is becoming the language of movie making. Companies using Unreal to shoot their shows and stuff like that. I can only imagine we're going to have, real-time performance captured characters on screen next to, live action actors blended seamlessly. And video game artists are going to be high in demand for that kind of work, I would imagine.
I would hope so. I would hope that they would get people that knew what they were doing. One thing about The Expanse that they liked, I remember doing this, so I'm playing this 9-foot-tall creature, but I'm literally doing a season's worth of work in 3 days. Right. Because we're doing it all in one stage. Sure. And one thing I know they appreciated was I knew all the tech. I knew what not to do. I knew what to do. And all that experience really helped us make it work and go fast. And so you're probably right. I feel like, well, dude, in this grows more and more.
Absolutely. And in this pandemic era, where you, and it sucks that we have to keep talking about it, but it's such a big part of all of our collective worlds that it's like a puzzle we're trying to solve right now. But performance capture seems like a way to solve a lot of issues. You can't really, look at Robert Pattinson gets COVID-19, and they have to shut down Batman. But if you've got technology that allows you to replicate a photoreal actor or a photoreal element in a scene, and you can performance capture their work together, it's not ideal, but again, it's a solution for this crazy thing that we're in,
And as tech grows and grows, now it's going to be more about, just in case this happens again, we can now seamlessly go into the new thing, as opposed to this 4 months where the world fell apart.
Let me ask you this though. You're in Los Angeles, and clearly it's led to some awesome new opportunities, but you're also remotely doing a lot of work now. Is there a shift in your thinking? Are you thinking maybe there's another place to set up to work? And can you think about remote working in other Like, are you coming back to Canada? What are you thinking right now?
I'm definitely thinking that it's getting to the point, even like on-camera auditions now are happening just at home.
Yeah.
So they say, we don't need you to come in now. I mean,
Right.
actors sending in tapes has always been a thing. But there was always like, a casting director would have their in-person sessions and get tapes. You always kind of felt like tapes were like the secondary because they're dealing with the in-person. But now everything is tapes. Not literal tapes, but everything is getting these videos. So you start going, well, do I have to be here? Do I have to spend what I'm spending to live in Los Angeles?
Right.
And do I have to deal with, the traffic and the fires? And why don't I just go live in Montana, spend half of what I'm spending, and do everything that I'm doing anyway?
That seems to be the progression of success in Hollywood anyways. It's like an actor books enough stuff and then they go, well, I'm not living here anymore. I'm going to go live in Scotland, and if you need me, I'll be back.
One of my favorite actors who I worked with on a show called Alphas is David Strathairn.
Yeah. He's amazing.
Love David Strathairn. And he's a really great guy too. But he lives in like Connecticut or something, or somewhere just outside of New York.
Right.
New York, or outside of New York State. And they just call him when they need him. And he comes into town when he needs him. He's like, I'm just going to live here. I don't need to live in these crazy, crazy towns. So I don't know, man. I might, I came down here with a green card. I got what's now called the Melania green card, which is the extraordinary ability green card, where you prove that you're going to be a boon to the economy. And so I got the green card, and to become a citizen, I have to live here.
Right.
And don't get me wrong, I do like living here. I like the people. I love the town. I love the nature, much like Vancouver though. But Vancouver, the weather's much better here. So you get
I love it down there, man. It's been I've been fortunate enough to work in a job that's allowed me to travel all the time, and I would spend half my year, it felt like, in California, whether it was San Francisco or Los Angeles, and it was always just incredibly welcoming for me. This producer out of Vancouver, and I would walk into these studios and everybody was just happy to see me, and they would give us all kinds of access and warmth, like genuine warmth, and then environmental warmth. It was there's
literal warmth.
And then I have a kid, and we go down to Disney all the time because I'm working down there too, and it's just that extra layer of like,
that's one thing. I've already been to Disneyland like 3 times, and Universal Studios, I think we've gone 5 times. Because you're just like, well, it's down the road. Why not? Let's just go. But I have to give this country legally, I have to give it 2 more years before I can become a citizen. And then once I'm a citizen, I could split my time. I could say I'm going to move back to Vancouver, so the kids can go to school there, but I'm going to have an apartment down here, or vice versa. I'll have an apartment in Vancouver and live down here. I don't know yet. But once I'm a citizen, I can actually go, because as a green card holder, you cannot leave for more than, I think it's 5.5 months.
Let's face it, none of us are going anywhere.
Well, there you go. So I'm like, well, in 2 years, I'm probably going to be stuck at home anyway. So after 2 years, I'll make a decision on what I'm going to do, if I'm going to come back to Canada or if I'm going to stay here. But I'd certainly like to save money on living in a really expensive city if I don't have to. That's the thing. So
there are less expensive cities in America.
That's true.
Yes.
Yeah. I'm going to go to Memphis. I don't know why. I just go to Memphis.
Oh, it's cool. So what are you enjoying more these days? Like you get to travel in these different worlds, and obviously let's pull back the clock 6 months pre-pandemic. But you're in front of the camera. You're doing just voice work for commercials and spots all the time. You've got performance capture work and video game related work. What brings you the most sort of creative satisfaction for you as a
good question? You know what? To be honest with you, a lot of the TV that a lot of actors have access to is not very great. It's not great. Like a lot of it is very underwritten and kind of cliched. Not saying that there's a golden age of TV, but that's, there's like 6 shows that are the golden age of TV. Those are difficult to get on. But when I book a role on a show that I really think is great, like The Expanse, which is incredibly well written.
An amazing show,
I go, this is top of it. It doesn't get better than this. like I remember getting monologues on The Expanse and working with some really good actors, and I'm just going, this is the best. This is the best. It doesn't get any better than this. But then at the same time, I'm doing like I have an anime, a Netflix anime, original anime coming out. I don't know when, but soon. Called, which used to be called Gods and Heroes, but they changed that to Blood of Zeus. There's a lot of God's Hand canceled titles in my life, but they changed it to Blood of Zeus, original Netflix, and I play like the main bad guy in it. And like that also, just going to work, and I'm working with like Fred Tatasciore and just like really great top of the line voice actors, and I'm just like, okay, maybe it doesn't get better than this. Like this is pretty great too.
Yes.
And plus, the good thing about voiceover is it's a lot less time put in, and you got a kid, I got 2 kids. And you're like, do I want to spend 17 hours on set? I would for a show like The Expanse, but when I'm playing the murderer of a week on name whatever show, there's a lot of times where I'm like, how many more shots do we have left? So it becomes less of a like really happy to be here and more of work. But when I'm doing like that animated series, or when I was here just doing Prometheus for Immortals, just having so much fun, just like joking and going back and forth with these silly lines and stuff. This is pretty great. So it's not really a particular medium that I like more than the others. I like the hours in some mediums better. One great thing about performance capture is, for games at least, is that it'll always be 9 to 5 or 8 to 5.
Right.
Because they don't do 12, 15-hour days.
Sure,
They pay their tech guys a 9 to 5 salary. So their tech guys show up at 9. I show up at 8 and get in the suit, work from 9 to whatever, noon, have lunch, work from lunch to the end of the day. And I get to go home at 5 o'clock.
You hear the stories of Clint Eastwood shooting his movies between 9 to 5, and they're under budget. Sometimes it shows that they are. And you hear you hear of performance capture shoots, which makes sense that they wouldn't go, because you can kind of use all of that data and
you don't need to change the lighting and hair and makeup, and it doesn't, like, you don't have to worry about that kind of stuff.
Totally. But now you have this experience of being on sets that just go over long and stuff, and there is a lot of anger directed to the film business because of these long hours and the danger that kind of work can.
Didn't that happen to somebody in Vancouver on Rivendell, right? One of the actors crashed his car driving home.
Yeah. It's so, like, why are they doing it? Why is Hollywood still so hell bent on 17-hour days? Why does that still continue?
This pandemic might change things, because one thing that's happening in our life recently is, with social media now, things that people would complain about in small circles or say, like, this doesn't work, why aren't we doing anything, has now become, like, the biggest example, of course, is the Me Too movement.
Absolutely.
That's the best example of, people would talk about it in circles, but nothing would ever happen. I think with things like this, with actors working 15, not just actors, crew, the crew working 17-hour days every day.
Yes.
It's going to start getting out where somebody's tweeting, this is my 17th hour, this is crazy. And that's going to get picked up, and then people are going to start going, maybe we'll add 3 days onto the schedule instead of trying to cram everything into 7 days.
Yeah. Yeah, and it must feel weird. It must feel weird to complain about it, because, as a younger actor, you were probably just hungry for that kind of opportunity.
Sure.
But, and I know that it isn't just like you're complaining. The podcast isn't about you having a platform to vent here. It's just, it's an interesting phenomenon, that occurs in movies, and then more so, or also in the video game industry, where we have crunch time over a, extended period of time.
Yeah, same type of thing.
Yeah, where it's totally proven that ultimately it's unbelievably unhealthy. We had to learn that on our show, because when we started Electric Playground, all of us were figuring out what we were doing, and we worked too hard, and we would just crunch and crunch and crunch. And then it took us a bunch of seasons, and we got smarter with it. And even as we transitioned to daily, we knew how to kind of hit, get all the content done in our 10 hours or whatever, 8 to 10 hours, much smarter, and a lot less burnout, a lot less.
They're going to have to on film
hostility.
TV. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And you know that you can do it. You can do it in a 10-hour day. Just add a couple more days to the schedule. It's I get it. I get that it makes it difficult when you're like, look, we're only at this location. We can only afford it for 2 days. So we have to get everything done. So tell the crew and the actors, these 2 days are going to be 17-hour days. It's terrible. And then when we get back to the studio, we're going to go to 8-hour days for 3 days. So everybody's going to get a break or something like that. And the union's going to have to start stepping in, both ACTRA and Canada, especially in Canada, because there's so much stuff in Vancouver. And SAG down here, they're just going to have to start going like, can't do this to people. And it's not even really the actors, to be honest with you. I know that it's popular because the actor crashed in that car there because he's the actor. But, man, I would, I'm exhausted after a 10-hour day. The guy who's driving me home has to go back after he drops me off, pick up the film and bring the chips, the data, and bring it to the next place. And then he gets to go home after another 3 hours past me. And then he has to be there at 5 o'clock and I have to be there at 8. And I'm exhausted. And you're like, these crew members must be like, extra exhausted. So something's got to give with that. And I feel like hopefully it will be. Unfortunately, it's probably going to take another, hopefully nobody gets hurt, but another incident where they're like, guys, this is too much now. We have to stop this.
Well, I think there's so much taking stock. I mean, the fact that the Batman got shut down and Pattinson got sick and Tenet did so poorly at the box office. And God, it is a time of real analyzation that, that's happening right now. Everything is being analyzed about the way that we all live and work, and what we get out of it and what we put into all of this. Are you able to keep booking things right now? Have things kind of shifted around and you're starting to kind of bring in enough regular work?
Yeah, but it's all voice work. It's all voice work. I had my last audition for an on-camera thing was March. I had just done an episode of Criminal Minds where again I was the bad guy of the week, and I had a really quick I think they're going to go forward with this. Do you want to audition for this? Last week, but that was my first one in 4 months. But with VO, I'm throwing stuff on tape, like I said earlier, all the time.
That's cool.
Occasionally I'll get, they want you for this gig, and that's 4 hours of my day, and that's it. And that gives me enough money to get to the next thing, and then 4 hours of my next day. And the big thing is just don't go into savings. And in Canada, it's starting to lessen up a bit because Canada knows what they're doing with COVID for the most part, unlike down here. But I got actor friends down here who are like, I'm just out of money. I'm just run out of money because I'm not working. I'm not guys who are not in VO, who are just in kind of on camera stuff, who would go from guest star to guest star to guest star to, large role, but only a couple of days work, things like that. And those guys are like, I'm screwed.
And there is no convention circuit or anything like that to kind
That's the other thing. Another way I would bring in a lot of money is Comic-Cons. Yeah. I did a home con, which was pretty good, but it's not the same. You do kind of panels like this and you hope people are watching, but you're not selling your autographs or selling your, you're not making a lot of money. They're paying you a lot of money to go to these virtual cons. So a lot of things have changed, man. A lot of actors are really, really struggling. So thank God for voiceover work. I hope it continues.
That's so cool. Like the viewers of this show are going to be wondering what the hell's going on with Deus Ex. Can you tell us anything? Is there any news about Adam Jensen coming back?
What's so funny is no matter what I say, people always say, well, no, you're not allowed to say anything. But the truth is, I have not heard anything. All I knew was that when we initially did Mankind Divided, and it was half of the story that we wanted to tell, we were supposed to tell this whole giant thing. And then I don't know what happened, but they moved on to Avengers and whatever else they're doing. And so I don't know if it got shelved completely, or I don't know if it's, just on a back burner. I have no idea. And I say that God's honest truth. I wish I did. because I love that character. I legitimately love those games. And so as a fan, I want to see how his story's going to end.
Absolutely, man.
And
absolutely.
Yeah, and I always embrace more work, so I wouldn't complain. But
well, it's funny that you're friends with David Hayter, a mutual friend of both of ours, another Canadian doing all right in the entertainment business down there.
Literally was talking to him like right before I called you.
And we want him back as Snake, and we want you back as Adam Jensen. You guys, when we can get past this this bullcrap pandemic, you guys can go to a bar together and commiserate. Snake and
it's
Adam
so funny.
in the
Every time
bar.
we get together, we'll take a picture. Because we don't live that. We live like 15 minutes from each other. We'll take a picture
cool.
and we'll take a picture and put it online, and somebody invariably will draw like Jensen over me and Snake over him.
That's
awesome.
That's
yeah.
right.
It's a weird time, man. But I don't know. I hope. But it's funny, because one thing that I hope happens with me is I love being associated with Adam Jensen because I actually legitimately think he's a great character.
Sure.
But I can't say what it is. You know what it is, but I can't say what it is. But I'm on this big, huge, giant game that we're working on now. That there's part of me that's going, well, I hope this game explodes like I think it will, and
I'm pretty sure it will.
Yeah, and people stop talking specifically about Adam Jensen with me.
Yes.
I don't know if that's ever going to happen again.
Yeah.
But it's split between me because there's a part of me that goes, no, I love it, embrace it. And because it's not like I don't like the character. I love it. So I almost go like, yes, but I also want to go, but guys, I do other things.
Yes.
So it's like, that's why I hope like Blood of Zeus and Immortals and this other big game that I'll tell you about. Like, I hope that these things kind of can get me away from it. But then, I say that, but then the second they're like, oh, we're going to do another one. I'm like, let's go, let's do it. I'm down. So
you have a very Greek name, Elias Toufexis. It's a wonderful name. But I'm wondering if you spent a lot of time in your career trying to show that you weren't just going to do Greek characters, that you could do many kinds of characters.
Well, I've done like 3 in a row, right?
I know, and now you're the guy he's the Greek guy.
Yeah. Thankfully, in Blood of Zeus, there's no accent involved. It's just me. Like,
okay.
We have a heightened way of speaking a bit, but there's no Greek accent, which is great. Because, I did Leonidas and then Nikolaos in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. Then I'm now in Prometheus and this, and now I'm in Blood of Zeus. But no, I don't care. Like, that doesn't bother me. It doesn't look. This stuff doesn't bother me. This like pigeonholed into something. It doesn't bother me if it gets me more work and more people know.
Totally.
And if somebody says like, "Oh, you were Adam Jensen," let me look at the other stuff you've done, and then they hire me. That's not something I should complain about. I just want to do another game. I just hope we do another game.
Me
Maybe
too.
that's where this all comes from, just anger.
I hear you pop up in commercials all the time, and I'm wondering what's the strangest commercial experience that you've done? Maybe you did a voice and somebody recognized you, or like, tell me about the strangest commercial that you've done.
Well, no, I get recognized a lot. My favorite thing is like going to a GameStop or something with like my son, and I'll just ask a question like, "Do you got this on Switch?" And they'll look at me for a second, and they're like, "Say that again." And then suddenly I'm like, "Oh my God, you're this guy." You have to be a real hardcore gamer to pick out a voice. But the funniest commercial thing I ever did was has nothing to do with Adam Jensen. It's just that I randomly was booked this commercial. I think it was for a Ford. It was for some car. It was for some car that had really good trunk space, and the copy was actually space in my car. Like, it was a William Shatner impression that they just gave me, and I do a really good William Shatner impression. And I was like, wait a second, did you guys know I do this impression? They're like, no, we just thought your voice was good, you should do it. I'm like, I'm totally doing this as William Shatner. And that was really funny. It was like space in my car, which was the best.
Did they use that?
They did, apparently they did. This was like 6 or 7 years ago.
And did people think it was William Shatner, or was...
No, because I'm not. My impression is a very strong exaggeration of William Shatner.
Okay.
It's not actually William Shatner. It's like me and, you know who Maurice LaMarche is? Of course you do. Maurice LaMarche and I, every time we get together, it's just Shatner offs. We just do Shatner all the time. Shatner and Orson Welles. He's the greatest Orson Welles impressionist ever because he's Brain. He does the voice of Brain. And Shatner's this like constant joke between us all the time. So that was so funny to me. I was like, space. I can't believe it. Shatner's a big hero to me. And I've met him like 2 or 3 times. And despite his reputation, he's always been very kind to me.
Yeah.
What
a character he is, man.
He's a character, man. And we literally grew up in the same neighborhood in Montreal.
Crazy.
Just
Crazy.
obviously generations apart.
Yeah.
But, so when I met him, I told him that. And then we both ended up in like shows that take place in space.
Do you know you're friends with Jay Baruchel too? I think, aren't you?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
Jay
he's
also
another
grew up
one.
in that same neighborhood.
That's crazy.
NDG in Hampstead in Montreal. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. It's funny, you know, that you're like, oh, these guys, you know, I just grew up where I grew up, and we all left and now do this for a living, which is weird. Although I think Jay lives in Toronto.
Yeah, he goes back and forth. I think though there must be this pull to the sunshine if you grew up in super.
You grew up on the East Coast of Canada, yeah. Yeah, you kind of want to come to the sunshine. Yeah.
So you have Immortals coming up. That's December, which was a nice surprise that Ubi's. It's sort of coming. It's imminent. It's coming very soon. What's next
on both,
for you?
Right? It's on the PS4 and 5, right, or the Xbox. Whatever it's
I
called.
think so. Yeah, it'll go. It'll upconvert or whatever they're going to do with it. It'll be next gen ready. What is?
And the other thing I can talk about what's next is Blood of Zeus is coming. I think this year. They won't tell me.
Okay.
That's the Netflix anime, which is really, really cool.
Right on.
It's by Powerhouse Animation, so the guys who did Castlevania.
Sweet.
So it's that same style of animation, and very violent and very adult. It's really, really, really cool. And it takes place in Greek mythology, and I'm the main bad guy in that. Yeah.
So cool.
And the other things that I'm doing, I can't talk about. It's so frustrating.
I get that every week.
Yeah, you must get that every week. Yeah. You had Yuri on, and I'm sure he said that a bunch of times. Yeah, you just can't. The first thing you sign before you even audition these days is an NDA. Yeah. And then when you book, they're like, we're not telling you anything.
Yeah.
So, I know I got 2 leads in 2 games. And then, oh man, I just booked a role in a very cool game that has been announced, but I can't say that I'm in it yet. I know that doesn't help you at all. But it's very cool. It's very cool.
I'll tell you what it does help me with. It helps me to think of when we're going to have you back. So let's talk about that later. We'll put that aside for a future episode. But excited to hear that you're in Immortals. That made my day when I was playing the game, and I was laughing every time you popped up. You're very good in the game, and I think people are going to be very impressed with your very different performance from a lot of the other game stuff that you've done.
Good, thanks. That's good to hear.
Which is great. But just, I'm a huge fan of you, and it's awesome to catch up, and my love to you and to your family, man, and just stay safe and keep making awesome things, okay?
Yeah, you too, man. And hopefully, like I said when we were texting, it's like, hopefully we can all go to Disneyland together in like 6 months or a year or something.
Yes. We need some face-to-face time in the near future.
Seriously.
Yeah. All right. That was my guest, Elias Toufexis. You know him from a million things, so go out and play some of those games, would you? And you can look forward to playing Immortals Fenyx Rising in December. Thanks for watching, everybody. We will see you soon, and until then, play forever.